Okay, so it's that time of year to prune our grapevines. So I thought I'd share with you just how we prune ours. I'll preface that with I am not a viticulturalist. This is just 12 years of what we found. Um, in fact, initially I was scared to death to prune a grapevine. I thought I was going to kill it. I thought I worried, am I taking too much off, not in the right places? And I've done all of those, except for kill them. Because what I've found, my experience has been that you really can't kill these things by pruning them. The worst you'll do is cause it to start over from the bottom. As long as it's got a good root system at all, um, I don't recommend pruning them that first year really until they do get a good root system, unless you're seeing a lot of leafy growth, because you don't want the energy going into the leafy growth. You want it that first year or two. You want it going into the soil. You want those deep roots. So we do minimum pruning that first couple years. We always buy our stock. We buy it that 2 and 3 year stock, so it's already pretty well established. Once we put it in the ground, that first year, we start seeing growth immediately. When we do cuttings and start them ourselves, uh, not quite as much growth. It takes a little bit longer. But the stock that we buy from the suppliers we buy it from, those first year, 2 years, minimal pruning, a lot of root growth. Then after that, they tend to take off. This is our Itascula grapevine. It probably looks and seems late in the year to be pruning these because it is rather warm today, but we're in west central Ohio, and our weather this winter has been it's a light switch. It's a light switch anyway in Ohio. We went straight from a foot of snow and freezing cold to it's now high 60s. I don't like pruning them in high 60s, but I didn't have a choice. I did get most the rest of the vineyard, and I'll show you some of that. But I want to show you that for another purpose. These vines seem to be doing very well. Many of the other vines, my wife decided to spray some weed and feed. Grapevines do not like weed kill, and she did that on a windy day. So it impacted some of the other vines, not actually last year, but about 2 years ago. It impacted some of the vines. Last year, for several reasons, we didn't do any pruning whatsoever. We just let them grow. One was we wanted to get some growth back on them because of the damage that weed kill had done. It didn't kill them fully off, but it did kill off some branches and impacted it somewhat. But anyway, so what you're going to want to start with, and two things to remember, we deal a lot with mold, blight, all those things. So as you will notice me pruning from one vine to the next, isopropyl alcohol, 99%, 99.9%. I'll spray down my shears. I'll do that every time. But these vines all look healthy. Apparently she didn't get these with the weed kill, or they just really took off last year. So this won't be an aggressive pruning. This is going to be cutting it back to where we'll get that second year growth, where we'll get some grapes off these. That isn't our goal this year, isn't to get a large harvest. Our goal is to get our vines trained and the proper growth where we want it. Get them healthy again after having taken a year off. So I'll show you some of that when we look at the other vines. You'll understand what I'm saying. When we did some heavy pruning on the other ones, these won't be so much. I expect actually a pretty decent harvest off these this year. So let me go get a cart. so that we can throw everything in the cart and burn everything properly later. Because that's the other thing you'll want to do to avoid the spread of any blight, mold, anything at all, is don't leave it on the ground. Take it, burn it. I've actually got some walnut syrup right now going, and it's a perfect opportunity to throw some of this under there and help burn it. Anyway, let me go get the cart, and I'll get right back with you. Okay, so now we have our Gorilla cart, which, by the way, not sponsored by Gorilla Cart in any way, shape, or form. But I have to tell you that we've had a lot of different carts over the years. Love this cart for small projects on the farm. One thing I didn't mention before, I said I don't like doing it when it's this warm out. But we are not late in the season. This is early March. We are frost. I think our frost date is April 20th, something like that. My wife always thinks it's May 15th or May 20th. Regardless of which, it doesn't matter. We do stand a chance, even though it's almost 68, 70 degrees out here today. We stand a chance of getting a frost, which will kill off the buds. One thing about grapevines will, if we just left this entire thing on, they will start budding from the end and work back. So the earlier in the season, if you're worried about frost getting the buds, don't cut it at 2 or 3 nodules. Cut it at 6 or 7 nodules. That way you can come back later in the season and cut off 2 or 3 of those, knowing that these are the last to bud, the ones closest to your main cordon. So if you're worried that you may still get some cold weather, just cut it a little bit longer, leave some extra nodes on there. I'll usually double the nodes if I'm doing it early like I am right now. So when I start, first thing I do is I don't need 50 nodes. So I'm going to start just by getting some things out of my way. That's how I start. Just so I can see. So we'll start there. As I get into it, the other thing I'm going to do is I want to look at the growth of it. Is there anything I want to keep and train? And is there anything that's just clearly dead and I just want to get rid of it? Is there anything that's clustered? And last year, we didn't pull the grapes off. Actually, the birds got most of them. But all of those are potential for mold and fungus to grow. So we're going to get rid of all this dead stuff, any old grapes on there. This is clearly dead. I'm going to take that off. Another dead one, take that off. Dead one. Got some dead ones on the other side of that. Actually, that one, this particular one, it may not have been dead. Yeah, it wasn't fully dead. But I also don't want 2 of them growing within an inch of each other. I like to at least have a full hand's width between my vertical growth. So on this one, this is a good one now. I've cleaned all the debris around it, the dead stuff around it. So now, get off them old grapes. I'll pick that up in a little bit. Get off all the old grapes. 1 node, 2 node, 3 node. If this was later in, later towards that frost date, I would cut it off here. But because I know we will still get some more cold weather, I'm going to cut it. I'm going to give it a few extra nodes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to cut it right here. Okay. And that's what I'm looking for. Nice, green, healthy vine. So I know that should produce for me. Get that off there. And we'll continue to do the same throughout. Here's one that's dead. Dead. Get rid of those. Get some of the old grapes off there. And here, another example of two of them growing together. I don't want two of them together. Just getting all that dead stuff out there. Nice and clean. And I definitely don't want the one that's growing under. I want the one that's over the top. So we're going to get rid of that one underneath. Now we're going to count nodes. I've got 1, 2, 3. That's typical. 4, 5, 6. Now, so I'm going to leave 6 nodes on there. I don't want my growth clear out here. It's just going to hang out. It becomes a nightmare to mow, get around. There's nothing for it to grab hold of. But I'm not leaving it for growth. I'm leaving it for frost prevention. The frost, if this one starts budding, frost is going to get it. I can come back, cut it here, which is what I really want. I want the growth within these 3 nodes. I'm leaving it for the frost protection, okay? So we'll finish cutting some of these off, dead ones. Here's one. I've got a hand between the 2 that I've just done. And then I've got this other one, and it's actually growing underneath. You don't want them growing underneath. You want them growing up. So I'm going to take that one off completely anyway. Now I have exactly what I'm looking for. Hands width between 2 of the vertical growth. 6 nodes on each one for frost prevention. And very clean. Nothing else underneath them. Getting off all the extra dead stuff. Just less places for mold and fungus to grow. So here, again, hands width would actually be here to here. This one's growing off to the side and slightly down, so I really don't want it anyway. So I'm going to take that one off. Take off a lot of the dead. You'll notice that even some of these smaller pieces, the dead stuff, I'm cutting them off. I'm not just snapping them off. And the reason I do that is I have had it before where I'll take some of that dead stuff, think it's going to snap off. I actually strip bark back down to some of the live things and it harms it. So I prefer to cut that off every chance I can versus trying to break that off. We're going to clean this one up just a hair. That's a good one. Take off a little bit more of the dead. Here's some, it's alive, but again, I don't want them that close. Get this little dead piece off. Now let's count nodes. We're not going to count that one, but we do have 1 there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out here. There we go. So you can see how this is quickly cleaning up. And here's what I've learned, and actually it's been more than 12 years now, is this was really scary for me when I first did it. I was always worried I was going to do something wrong. Grapevines are so resilient, it's ridiculous. At least the varieties that we've encountered. And we have, let's see, I think we have like 7 different varieties. We have Frontenac, Isabella, Marquette, Frontenac Gris, Itascula, Lacrosse. We've tried lots of other varieties as well. Just so happens this is all we have at this time. But back to the, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to make some aggressive cuts, in fact. Here's a couple of them. My God, in my early years, I'd look at those and, oh, they look so healthy. Why would I cut those? Well, the more you leave on there, the thicker this gets, the less sunlight gets to each of this growth. And it becomes overwhelming. Like it's actually growing where you don't want it to. It's putting energy into some of the growth that you don't want it there. You want it into later as it gets older. You want that growth to be put into the fruits. Well, if you've got way too many limbs for this, it's putting all the energy into the leaves and drawing that moisture from the roots up into the leaves, and you're not going to get that much fruit. So you're going to see I'll be pretty aggressive with this. Again, I've got some dead wood here. I'm going to get rid of that. Dead wood. A lot of dead wood on this one. This one, I see some green right there on the end, so I know it's a, we'll leave that one. Make no mistake, I still, to this day, I'll leave some that I breaks the rules of everything I just told you, and I'll get rid of some that break the rules of everything I just told you. I don't worry that much anymore, because after 12 plus years, God, it's been 15 years. After 15 years of doing this, what I've learned is there's really very little you're going to do to this that can't be undone. So don't be afraid to prune these things. I don't like this. I didn't train it properly, so I'm going to take that off. And you'll see that in a lot of the vines, especially last year we didn't spend as much time training them and making sure they're tied up. Once they get this good woodiness, what I did was when they were soft and subtle as they were growing and they had that green to them, that's when I started wrapping them around my different steel cables, and I would use garden tape to tie those up. I can actually take that garden tape off now. It's not going anywhere. Once it becomes this hardened wood, these things aren't going anywhere. Okay, so at the end, I now have two really good, strong growth patterns going. I've got this one here and a V here. I don't want them both. I like this one the best, so I'm going to take the other one off. Just simply because it's growing up. I'm going to count my nodes after I clean up some more dead. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is up there. Again, I have no intentions of keeping that 6th one, for that matter, the 4th through the 6th. I have no intentions of keeping this. Back to, that's for frost protection. That's the only reason it's still up there. I'll also clean up my cables while I'm out here. Take off some of that stuff. So really looking at this, taking off some more dead stuff, we've got a really healthy cordon here, and on it we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 vertical growth shoots that we'll get grapevines or grapes off of. So now it's a matter of just doing the same for the rest of it. So I'll just let you watch. I won't really talk that through. This one's completely dead. Now this is actually a good example of, I didn't have much growth going on here when I trained this one. And it's not very healthy all the way back to this one, maybe this one. But really what I'd like to do is train a new one this year, and train it down this second cordon. And you're probably wondering, why do I have two? Why do I have two horizontally trained cordons? I read an article written, it was either University of Minnesota or Cornell University, one of the two, had done a study, and certain varieties, a lot of other varieties that we have, actually will produce more having two cordons, a first row and a second row. So we've been doing that for the last couple years. Most of them I try just to grow on this bottom cordon, and let everything grow up from there. But some of these varieties, and we've noticed it, we've gotten a lot more production out of them having 2 cordons down each side. So if you're wondering, that is why. I'm sure there's people that will differ with that opinion, but it was just an article that I had read, and we've been using that ever since. So here's where I'm strongly debating. I don't really care for how weak this growth was. I could cut it back anywhere in here and use one of these to train a new one going down. Or I could come here, and this one looks really healthy, and train it down, and it's already headed that direction. Even if it's not this particular branch that some of the new growth, I could train down that. But what I think I'm going to do, because I don't have to make that decision right now, I'm going to leave some of this all the way to here, because this one's actually pretty strong. There's probably people who are going, oh my God, it will grow. It will grow back. But I'm going to take that off, actually all the way back to here. And in doing so, I may train off of this one. If I get some lower growth, I'll train it on down. If I don't get it there, I might get it here. If I don't get it here, I can train this one and then come back and get this whole branch off there. I don't have to make those decisions today. And contrary to belief, there is not just one time that you have to prune these things. It's just this time of year, or when it's colder, you're going to get less of that sap run out. I can already feel it because it's so warm today. But during this, it's just as important to prune these during the summer as it is in those winter months. I don't know if it's as important, but it is important. Okay, so this one, just not a big fan of. Just didn't look right to me. Taking it off, no harm. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm actually going to cut it back a little bit more. No use for the one behind it whatsoever. Take that off. This particular one, I really see zero use for that whatsoever. I left it last year just in case this one I didn't get the growth I'd hoped. I love how this one turned out. But I left this one because if this one did die back, or I didn't get the vertical shoots in the right spacing, I had a backup plan. Okay, well, I don't need that backup plan. But also, still don't have to cut the whole thing off. I left a couple nodes. We'll see. What else we got here? Take that. That one don't need. None of those. That one's dead for the most part. If you've got one that only has some small twigs, we'll call them, coming off of it, more than likely most of this is dead in it, but it has a little bit of sap coming up through there, and that's where you're getting this. But there's nothing healthy about that one, so we just took that one all the way off. Okay, dead, completely dead. Let's see what else we got in there. Just get off some of the dead to where we can see what we're dealing with. There's another dead one, and it's underneath, so we didn't want that one. There we go. This one, I don't really like it. Very little use for it, but I don't necessarily have to cut it off. This one in the back, and it's growing down. Very little I like about it, but I'm going to leave it for now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No intentions of using the outer ones, just frost prevention. Dead. 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 That one's underneath, so I don't really care for it. And it's dead. The other thing you'll find, you don't see much vertical growth here. But I know what's going to happen is I will get some buds starting in here. I'll just pick the healthiest ones and let those grow. But this year I really want to get these, there was a dead one. I want to get these back to a healthy state. That's more important to me than getting a harvest this year. Six nodes. This one's growing underneath. As healthy as it looks, I don't want it growing underneath. I don't want anything growing underneath. So we're going to take that one off. This one's just got more growth than it needs. We're going to take that one off there. Don't need that one. Or that one. 6. Right up there. Take that one off. That one off. Some more of that dead. These were all growing underneath. Actually, as I look out there, it's not very strong and it's not trained the way I want it to. So we're just going to take that off. There we go. And this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out here. Take some of that old fruit off. There you have it. That's how I train my grapevines. Now we can finish the other side. This is dead. And if I don't say it, what I'm doing is I'm counting these. Counting the nodes. Back to, I really don't care for this particular one either. Seems to have some growth out here. This just, it really didn't thicken up the way I'd like it to have. Not saying it won't over time. Luckily, I don't have to make that decision today. I'm just taking off the dead stuff. Last year's fruit that I didn't get. More dead. There we go. So that's really about all I'll probably do with this one at the moment. Never mind. I always take a step back because I always miss something. And sometimes it's the most obvious things that you miss when you're standing right up against it. And if you're wondering, so this cable and these lights, we've held wedding receptions. My son, his wedding reception was held out here. My wife at the time put some solar fairy lights on each of the top cordons. It was beautiful. But when we went to prune it, those real thin wires, anyone that's ever bought fairy lights, those thin wires, oh my God, we cut them so many times. So I found some solar Edison lights and we strung those up. And we're going on 2 or 3 years since we've had these up, and they are still as good as the day we bought them. I have to replace the wire ties just from what the UV does to it. But other than that, that is how I prune a grapevine. So I promised you some examples of some of the earlier pruning I'd done when it was colder out. This one actually damn near perfect, exactly what I was looking for. Maybe a little bit more growth on this lower cordon, and the same over here. Seems like the top 2 cordons definitely performed the best. But here, this was some very aggressive pruning. In fact, here there was a what was a cordon come off, and I'd had 2 of them. I wasn't sure which one to keep. And this one, while it grew better, wasn't exactly the way I wanted it to. So I went ahead and cut that off. And a lot of people be scared to death to do that. I know it's going to grow back. But I even left myself a couple growths down here, just in case this one doesn't perform as well as I hope it does. And I get a growth there. I can start training it down here and then come back and cut this one off. Over here, none of the cordons that come off in this direction did I like whatsoever. So I cut those all the way back, knowing it will start again. It will get some growth, probably even healthier than what was there before. So this row was just an example of the growth wasn't quite what I had wanted, so I cut it back. In fact, this particular one, I cut all the way back. I'm going to start it from the ground up, and it will, because I know it has a good root system. So it will start from the ground up. These are Marquette. Well, this is Marquette. This is Frontenac Gris. What I'll do is later in the season, even this summer, I'll post some updates on these exact plants. This vine, these 3, including the one from the ground up, and some of the others that you may be able to see. I know I'm a bit further back now, but this one has all the hallmarks of good growth. I like it, but I did cut it way back. There's not a lot on it right now. So I will show you these exact vines again in an update, as well as the vine that we had just pruned together.